The U.S. just came out of 47th out of 47 long-term democracies for a democratic scale. The University of Harvard and the University of Sydney, Australia, rated the countries in the world, and we essentially ended up last.
There are so many instances where it seems like unfairness has occurred. And actually, there's a tremendous amount of energy in Bernie supporters.
He has been gathering huge crowds, and he's been winning the primaries. In every other country of the world, this is an accepted fact. The exit polls are a reliable indicator of the integrity of the elections.
You have the Sanders vote and the Sanders unadjusted exit poll vote. 11 of the 26 are so statistically outside the margin of error that under our State Department's protocol, we would be investigating them as fraudulent and wouldn't recognize the result.
There's been fraud in every one except Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is the only one where state officials do it instead of private contractors. The shift is all going in one way, which indicates someone's cheating.
The public is not being told that the votes are being flipped. The unadjusted exit polls showed Bernie Sanders is ahead now in delegates. The exit poll results are being suppressed. He's doing the right thing to win. He's doing his job. It's our job to motivate the authorities and to do the litigation that needs to be done to stop the fraud. Bob and I have been in state and federal court over this problem since 2004. It was obvious to any critical observer that the 2004 presidential election was stolen in Ohio. They commenced a criminal investigation, and they found evidence of fraud.
Clint Curtis is a programmer. He designed a system to flip elections.
Mr. Curtis, would you please state your full name for the record?
Name is Clinton Eugene Curtis.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections?
Yes. In October of 2000, I wrote a prototype at the company I work for in Oviedo, Florida, that did just that.
It would rig an election?
It would flip the vote 51-49 to whoever you wanted it to go to and whichever race you wanted to win.
So in other words, there's absolutely no assurance whatsoever on anything with regard to these machines?
Absolutely none, unless you look at the source code and make sure it's safe before it goes in. If you have exit polling data that is significantly off from the vote, then it's probably hacked.
I've talked to John Kerry. I briefed him after 2004. He knew wherever those machines were used, the exit polls didn't follow.
I happen to be aware of exit poll results that actually showed that Kerry was winning the following day. And they assumed that Republicans were too shy to come up and say who they voted for.
I went down there and talked to the election officials and go, man, you guys must have been crazy with that huge surge right at the end. And they go, what huge surge? No surge existed on the sign-in sheets for the precincts all over Butler, Warren, and Claremont County. Those three counties provided the entire margin of victory for George Bush and were 7 points off what the exit polls had predicted. In Youngstown, Ohio, they admitted 31 of their machines had to be recalibrated later in the day. Why? They were flipping votes from Kerry to Bush. This is what we used to call the red shift, which usually only occurred for the Bush family. What used to be the red shift has emerged as the Clinton shift. So they know what's going on. The broader question is who's doing it. We know who benefits from it, Hillary Clinton.
She's not the one who's doing this. It's being done by people who do this professionally.
Paul Manafort, he's an American who was involved with the stealing of the Ukraine presidential election in 2004. Paul Manafort is the top campaign manager for Trump.
Hillary Clinton has been used for the purpose of scuttling Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Hillary is actually easier for Trump to beat.
This is a map. The title is Roadmap to Karl Rove's Empire of Election Fraud. Karl Rove is in a position to learn the techniques used to overthrow governments, to corrupt elections overseas.
Dealing with issues around elections can be dangerous business.
45-year-old Michael Connell died Friday night after his plane crashed into this vacant house near Union Township in Stark County.
Mike Connell could have disclosed information that has been absolutely detrimental to the Bush administration, in particular Karl Rove.
In 2004, in Ohio, Mike Connell built the Secretary of State, J. Kenneth Blackwell's election night reporting system.
And the kingpin is a computer with a person sitting at it. I thought was probably sitting somewhere in the middle on the high-speed line. Instead of this happening, this happens. And this operator is sitting here at a company called Smart Tech Solutions. It was designed into the Secretary of State's office that they could switch the control from their computer talking to the counties to have a Smart Tech do it.
So he was subpoenaed for a deposition in this election fraud case. Mike Connell began to fight the subpoena.
We received an anonymous tip that Rove had threatened Mike Connell.
During one of the breaks, I had the opportunity to talk to him. I warned him not to fly his plane.
Mike Connell was on his way to Ohio for his company's annual Christmas party. Mike Connell never made it to that Christmas party.
Stephen Spoonamore had said to me, Cliff, you realize the people we're dealing with whack people.
Mike Connell's plane had been sabotaged.
He had been instructed to take the fall. He would have admitted, yes, I'm responsible for Smart Tech having that role, and he denied it. And by denying his role in putting it there, he was putting the finger on Karl Rove and Ken Blackwell. And that's why he was assassinated.
No other society would allow private companies to secretly count the vote. Between the 2004 and 2008 election in Ohio, 1.25 million voters were stripped in that state. Why in a computer era, why would you deregister anyone from the voting rolls?
What happened in 2004 during the election, we actually knew it was machines all along.
And the software is actually designed for fraud. So you can have every precinct right when you check it, but the county total is actually wrong. The GEM software, General Election Management Software,
Which we use in Marin.
it's weighted and can count votes in fractions, which makes it really easy to say, when it hits 100, give Bernie 9/10, give Hillary 110.
Already there are major concerns that the electronic voting machines here, as well as an electronic software patch that's been placed on voting machines in the northern part of the state, could cause all kinds of problems. They installed software patches that will affect 4 million registered voters. All election systems, hardware and software, it has to be tested and certified by the state before being put into use. By deeming this new software experimental, Secretary of State Husted was able to have the software installed without any review, inspection, or certification by anyone. One of the most surprising revelations is how closely Governor Mitt Romney is connected to the machines being used right here in Hamilton County. Hamilton County, which went to Obama in 2008 and Bush in 2004, is believed that it could be the one that decides the winner of Ohio. And Ohio, more than any other state, will likely decide the presidency. The researchers concluded that virtually every ballot, vote, election result, and audit log is forgeable and otherwise manipulatable by an attacker with even brief access.
Why on earth would they approve an experimental patch?
You're allowed one experimental patch in one precinct. They were going to put it in 44 counties. They got it on 30 counties before a Republican member of the Secretary of State's office blew the whistle. The Ohio vote in 2012 was saved by people in the Bay Area, essentially watched our computers in Columbus, Ohio, and we found that the computers went down. Lawyers, people with cameras, tweeters running in and asking officials, why is the computer down? Because usually the computer goes down before it comes back up with funny numbers.
The only way to catch the fraud is by doing an audit. And we had one of the top experts from the National Security Agency as our expert witness. We put the spotlight on it. And in the courtroom on Election Day, the judge said, if there's a problem, we'll talk about who pays for the audit. We were keeping the FBI informed every step of the way. And election night, the FBI was in the Secretary of State's office. Karl Rove is on Fox News. They call the election in Ohio for Obama, and Karl Rove says, wait a minute, all the votes aren't in yet. No one told Karl that the fix was off because the scrutiny was on.
I think you're doing a great job of making the sale, but what do you suggest we and you do?
Well, we're going to start now.
And we are filing a lawsuit which will put the spotlight on these exit polls so that the public would know if there's apparent fraud. Guess what the media did? They canceled the exit poll. And that's why Lori and Bob are organizing a citizen exit poll.
We may have to do them again in November with Paul Manafort heading up Trump's campaign.
And the lawsuit is going to demand that all of the 24 exit polls now be published. We have identified which precincts in this country the fraud has occurred, and we will be going into court with a demand to inspect the ballots. We can do it publicly. Everybody can observe or participate. We've got the evidence. We've got the know-how. We've got the experts. So they're nailed. We expect that before the convention, the actual exit polls for the entire primary will be available for public view. And it's not just these exit polls, it's this precinct data, where we are going to be able to say where the votes were stolen. It's in the African American, Latino districts. The plaintiff is an entity called King Lincoln Bronzeville Neighborhood Association, which is an African American community, and they have standing because this has been a violation under 1983 section of the Civil Rights. And that case will be expanded to add additional plaintiffs, to add additional defendants. If it's filed in the state court, Bob Fitrakis has standing on multiple bases. He is the editor-in-chief of the Free Press. His newspaper has been ridiculed because they're covering up the crime which he's reporting. And we're going to argue that for the public, for them to be denied the knowledge of all this criminal activity that's been going on in every election up to this time is outrageous. We are suing the media. They are covering up evidence of criminal activity. It's a crime.
If we're suing the media, then why is the media then going to tell us that they're being sued?
We're only suing 6 of them. You know, the 4 networks, the Associated Press, and CNN.
The elections are rigged. The evidence is clear. Everybody's going to see it, and the game is over.
Do you think you're going to be able to get some form of injunctive relief in time to impact the election?
Yes. Bernie has won, in fact, and he will win officially, and there's no way the Democratic Convention is going to nominate somebody on the basis of obviously stolen votes.
When Bernie becomes a Democratic nominee, will the swing states be able to be won with these rigged machines?
Once this lawsuit takes its course, the cheating game is over. The FBI and the Justice Department will be kept fully informed. I believe we have an honest Justice Department, an honest FBI, and there will be a prosecution of the people that are doing this.
I believe there will be substantial industry pushback. Cliff, I have some concerns for your safety.
What's important here is getting the truth out. Now, the public has a need to know today